Good morning, everyone. Today, we are going to explore a powerful tool that can help you grow as a teacher every single day: reflective teaching practices. As teachers, reflection is what allows us to look at our methods, adapt, and improve, ensuring our students receive the best learning experience possible. So, in this session, we'll learn about simple but effective ways to assess our teaching strategies and continuously improve, because learning doesn't stop with our students. It's a journey for us as teachers too. Let's begin this exciting process of growth and exploration. A warm welcome to all of you present over here. We are so glad to have you here today. So, as the title suggests, our focus in this session is all about reflecting on our teaching methods, revising what we do, and ultimately rising as better teachers. The journey we are embarking on together is one of the continuous growth where each reflection leads us to discover new ways to connect with our students and make a lasting impact on their lives. Now, let's dive into our key objectives for this session. So, by the end of this session, you will have a clear understanding of what reflecting teaching really means and why it's such a powerful tool in your teaching journey. You'll learn practical, easy to apply strategies to continuously improve your teaching methods, making sure you're not just teaching, but actively evolving with your students' needs. Reflective teaching isn't just about looking back, it's about gaining new insights and adapting. This helps us grow, connect more deeply with our students, and provide them with the best possible learning experience we can provide them. Now, teaching can often feel like a puzzle where all the pieces don't seem to fit perfectly at first. But when we take the time to step back, reflect, and think carefully, we start to see how everything can come together. Now, in the next few slides, you'll face some simple puzzles. These challenges will mirror the way we approach teaching, where reflection helps us find solutions and improve our strategies. Just like in teaching, sometimes all it takes is a bit of reflection to solve the puzzle. Now, here's your first reflective challenge. Imagine you're teaching a simple concept like counting from 1 to 10. You have demonstrated it, but you notice that one student isn't responding as quickly as the others. What will you do next? Take a moment to think about how you would approach helping this student. Some of you may suggest breaking the concept down further, while others might focus on giving more individual attention or using creative methods. So let's keep this idea in mind as we move forward, that teaching is not one size fits all, and reflection allows us to adjust and improve to support all our students effectively. Now let's move to a slightly more complex situation. You have taught the concept of even and odd numbers in your virtual classroom, and while it seemed like students understood it during the lesson, some are now confusing the two concepts. How would you approach revisiting this topic in your next class to ensure they grasp it better? Please take a moment to reflect on this. Now, some of you might suggest revisiting the basics or using concrete examples, or others might think about using games, quizzes, or even peer learning to reinforce the concept. What's crucial here is recognizing that confusion is a part of the learning process. Now, here's a more advanced challenge. You have been teaching fractions, and initially your students were engaged and participated actively. But now you have noticed a decline in both participation and assignment submissions. Despite knowing they are capable, something seems to have changed. Again, reflect here for a moment. What could be causing this shift, and how would you address it to re engage your students? Some of you may suggest the students could be losing interest because the material is getting more difficult, or perhaps they need a more interactive way to stay engaged, like using real life examples or hands on activities. While others might focus on building confidence by revisiting foundational concepts or offering encouraging feedback. Now, what you have just done is exactly what reflection is all about. By thinking about how you would adapt your teaching in response to the puzzles we have discussed, whether it's adjusting your approach for a struggling student, revisiting a confusing concept, or re engaging students who have lost interest, you are practicing reflection. Reflection is simply the process of stepping back, thinking critically about what worked and what didn't, and continuously improving your methods to help students learn better. Everything we have discussed is a part of that reflective process. It's what helps us become better teachers day by day. Now, building on the concept of reflection, let's define what reflective teaching is. So, reflective teaching is the practice of regularly thinking about your teaching methods, evaluating their effectiveness, and making improvements based on your observations and feedback. It's about being intentional in your approach and willing to adapt to the needs of your student. In short, reflective teaching is a cycle of self assessment, action, and improvement. Now, here I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think will happen when you start reflecting on your teaching? Take a moment to think about it. So, some of you may feel that reflection will make you more aware of what works and what doesn't, while others believe it will lead to better student engagement or even overall improvement in both teaching and learning. Now, let's clarify one thing. Reflection isn't just about identifying what went wrong, it's also about recognizing what went well and why. By making even small changes based on reflection, you'll start to see differences not just in your teaching, but in how your students respond. So, even if it feels like a challenge to find the time for reflection, the benefits can be substantial for you and for your students. So let's take a moment to reflect on this line. What this line really captures is the essence of reflective teaching. It's a journey of personal growth. Each time we reflect, we learn, adapt, and become more in tune with our students' needs and our own teaching style. Reflection gives us the freedom to make choices, to sway from our original plans if needed, to try new approaches, and to grow in ways that are uniquely ours. As we have discussed, there's no one size fits all in teaching, and reflection allows us to continuously refine our methods to best suit our students and ourselves. Now let's dive into the key principles of reflective teaching. So the first step in reflective teaching is self-awareness. It's about honestly assessing how you teach and recognizing your strengths and areas for improvement. Critical thinking allows you to dig deeper into why certain methods work or don't work. By being aware of your teaching habits, you can better analyze them. And then reflection is an ongoing process. A reflective teacher always seeks ways to improve, never settling for good enough. With each lesson, each interaction, there's an opportunity to grow and make things better. It's not about perfection, but it's all about progress. And then reflection doesn't happen in isolation. Being open to feedback, whether from students, colleagues, or your own observations, is crucial. True reflection requires a willingness to change, to adapt, and to try new approaches based on what you learn from that feedback. Now, let's consider this common scenario. As a teacher, you notice that one of your students is struggling in one subject, say, for example, math. Based on this, you might assume that the student is weak overall, which is a natural but incomplete judgment. We sometimes fall into the trap of labeling students based on their performance in one subject. But then something shifts. You come across the same student's work in another subject like science or language, and they are thriving there. Suddenly, your assumption is challenged. The student isn't weak, they are excelling elsewhere. Now, this realization prompts a reflection. Was I too quick to judge? What's happening here? This is where the power of reflection truly comes in. The teacher reflects on their initial assumption and realizes it was based on incomplete information. Now, instead of continuing with that mindset, the teacher takes action. They personally talk to the student, trying to understand the challenges in math and uncover the student's strengths in other areas. Now, through these conversations, the teacher discovers the student feels anxious about math but is confident in science because of a more hands on learning approach. The teacher now adjusts their teaching strategy, offering extra one on one help and trying different methods, like using more visuals or more real life examples to make math less intimidating for that student. So, now what will be the outcome, or what's the outcome? By reflecting and adapting, the teacher not only helps the student to improve in math, but also boosts like the overall confidence. The student feels supported knowing their strengths are recognized, and the teacher is actively helping them in areas where they need more guidance. Now, let's take a moment to understand the mindset of a reflective teacher. When teachers embrace reflection, their approach becomes more empathetic and student centered. It's no longer just about delivering lessons, it's about building a connection and creating a partnership and learning. A reflective teacher strives to understand the student's perspective. Now, this helps the teacher to adapt their learning to the student's needs. And teaching isn't a one way street. A reflective teacher continues to grow and improve, knowing that their own learning directly benefit their students. Whether it's finding new strategies, using technology, or adjusting classroom methods, the goal is always to improve the student's learning experience. Then a reflection like sharpens a teacher's ability to observe and listen closely. Instead of only focusing on what they are teaching, a reflective teacher pays attention to how students respond, noting their engagement, participation, and even nonverbal cues. Then reflection helps the teacher see the student teacher relationship as a partnership. The teacher doesn't assume everything is perfect, but asks, how are we doing together? Am I supporting this student in the best way possible? Then reflective practice is about constant improvement, not only in teaching, but in the classroom experience as a whole. It's a mindset of continual growth. In essence, reflective teaching is about empathy, growth, observation, partnership, and always striving for better outcomes for students. Now, let's see what are the types of reflection. So, when we talk about reflection in teaching, we can break it down into two main types. First, it's reflection for action. The type is reflection for action. Then we can break it into two main types, which is reflection in action and reflection on action. So, reflection and action, this type of reflection happens while you are teaching. It's immediate and real time. Imagine you are in the middle of a class explaining a concept like fractions. You notice that some students look confused and they aren't responding the way you expected. At that moment, you quickly decide to change your approach, maybe use a visual aid to clarify fractions, ask a question to check if they understand, or give them a quick example they can relate to. So, this ability to adjust your teaching on the spot based on the feedback you observe from your students is reflection and action. Now, let's move on to reflection on action. This type of reflection happens after the lesson is over. Once the class ends, you think back on what worked and what didn't. You review the students' participation, their reactions, and their grasp of the topic. You might ask yourselves, why did some students struggle with the topic which I taught today? Could I have introduced the topic differently? What can I change for the next lesson? So both these types of reflection in action and on action are crucial for continuously evolving as a reflective teacher and ensuring your students' learning needs are met. Now let's move on to the next type of reflection, which is based on Gibbs reflective cycle. So this is a step-by-step model that helps teachers and also others reflect deeply on an experience or a lesson. It breaks down reflection into 6 clear stages, making it easier to understand what worked well, what didn't, and how to improve. Now let's go through each stage of the Gibbs reflective cycle in detail. So the first step is description, is to describe the event or experience in as much detail as possible. This is just about the facts, what happened in the class. Like you were teaching a lesson on, say, as we have discussed on fractions, and some students struggled with the concept. You noticed that several students didn't participate or seemed confused when you asked questions, while a few others managed to understand quickly. Now, at the end of the lesson, most students didn't perform well in a quiz you conducted. So, this is the description. Now, coming on to the feelings, here you reflect on your emotions during the experience. How did you feel before, during, and after the lesson? Like before the lesson, you felt confident because you had planned everything thoroughly. Then during the lesson, you began to feel worried when you saw that many students weren't grasping the concept. After the lesson, you felt disappointed because the students didn't perform well on a quiz and you started doubting whether your teaching method was effective. Now, let's come on to the evaluation phase. So, in this step, you evaluate the positives and negatives of the lesson, what went well and what didn't. Be as objective as possible. Now, a few students were able to understand the concept easily. The examples and explanations worked well for them, while many students were confused by the way the fractions was concept was introduced. Maybe the concept was introduced too quickly, or perhaps the examples weren't relatable enough for everyone. You also notice that the quieter students didn't engage much. This might have impacted their understanding. Now, moving on to the analysis step, why did it happen this way? This is where you dig deeper into the reasons behind what worked and what didn't. Analyze why the students struggled or succeeded in the lesson. So, like the examples you used in the lesson were too advanced for the students who struggled. You may not have spent enough time explaining the basics before moving on to more complex problems. You didn't ask enough questions to check for understanding as you went along. Now, next, moving on to the conclusion phase, what else could you have done? Now, you think about the alternative actions. What could have done differently in this situation? You could have started the lesson with with some easier examples to build a solid foundation before introducing more complex problems. You could have used real world examples that students could relate to. You could have encouraged more participation from the quieter students, perhaps by calling on them or creating like smaller group activities or peer learning. Now, what is the action plan? What will you do next time? So the final step is creating an action plan for the future. How will you handle similar situations going forward? Like how we have discussed, you could like use more relatable examples. You'll make sure to pause frequently and ask questions to check if students are following the concept. You will also try to engage the quieter students by creating opportunities for them to participate either through group work or by encouraging them individually. Now, as teachers, reflection can take many forms, and there are various tools and techniques that we can use to enhance our reflective practices. Just now, we have gone through the two types of reflection, how we can reflect on our teaching. Now, let's go over a few of them, a few of the tools or techniques that can help you continuously improve your teaching methods. So, the first one is reflective journals. Writing in a reflective journal allows you to capture your thoughts on each lesson. This can be as simple as jotting down what worked and what didn't, or any specific moments that stood out. Over time, this will help you spot patterns in your teaching. Uh, so, these journals provide an ongoing space for reflection where you can revisit and refine your approach. Then the next one is student feedback. So don't underestimate the value of feedback from your students. They are, after all, the recipients of your teaching. A quick feedback question or an open discussion can help you gauge their level of understanding, what they enjoy, and areas where they may need more support. You could ask things like, what part of today's lesson did you find more interesting? Or is there something you'd like to do differently? Their responses can guide your future lessons. Then the next thing is the class video recordings. So, recording a class while you are teaching. Watching yourself teach can feel strange, but it's a powerful tool. By reviewing a recorded lesson, you can observe things you might not notice in the moment, like pacing, how much interaction you have with students, or even your tone or your voice. This technique allows you to pause, reflect, and improve specific elements of your delivery. Plus, it helps you build a portfolio of your teaching style with time. Then we have like workshops, which provides hands-on learning experiences where you can actively participate and practice new teaching strategies. They are an excellent way to deepen your knowledge in specific areas of teaching. So through workshops, you can interact with other teachers, share experiences, and collaborate on new ideas. So this interactive environment and workshops helps you not only learn but also apply what you have learned. Then webinars like the one we are in right now, like they allow you to learn on different topics, on timely topics. They offer you the opportunity to stay updated. So both of these methods, workshops and webinars, are opportunities to expand your skills and knowledge. Now, to truly grow as reflective teachers, is important to have a supportive community where we can share insights, discuss challenges, and learn from each other. So, building a virtual reflective community allows us to stay connected and foster continuous learning and collaboration. So, we already use WhatsApp groups to stay in touch and coordinate with our teaching schedules, but these groups can also serve as platforms for reflection and support. You can use them to share classroom experiences, ask for feedback from your other volunteer teachers, like or simply share what worked well and what didn't. This ongoing conversation helps you reflect in real time and gain fresh perspectives from other teachers. And then we have dedicated Evolve community on Discord. This space is designed for deeper discussions, sharing resources, and collaborating on solutions. So you have different channels and you can connect with other volunteer teachers who are facing similar challenges. It's a great place to reflect together, exchange ideas, and build relationships with other volunteer teachers. So on Evolve, you might post about how you are struggling to engage students in a specific lesson. Another teacher may suggest a creative activity or share a resource that has worked for them. This type of interaction helps you to reflect on your teaching methods and try new approaches. Now, as we move forward, let's focus on how reflective practice benefits you as a teacher in meaningful and long lasting ways. So, reflection keeps you engaged in the process of continuous learning by analyzing your teaching methods and experiences. You are constantly evolving, ensuring that you're always open to new ideas and approaches in your teaching journey. Then, teaching is about building relationships. Reflecting on your interaction with students help you develop empathy, self-awareness, and better emotional responses, allowing you to navigate your classroom dynamics with greater understanding. Then every student is different, and reflection encourages you to be more attuned to their individual needs. It helps you create an inclusive environment where every student feels seen, heard, and supported. Then reflection sparks creativity by thinking critically about what works and what doesn't. You are motivated to try new approaches, integrate new tools, and create more engaging lessons. Then the more you reflect, the more you understand your strengths as a teacher. This process builds your confidence and you see the positive impact of your teaching on your students' progress. And then when you reflect on the progress your students make, you're naturally becoming more encouraging and supportive of their efforts. So this helps build a positive classroom culture where students feel motivated uh, to succeed. Then reflection not only helps you grow, but also inspires your students to reflect on their learning process. So by modeling reflective behavior, you teach students how to think critically about their own learning, making them reflective learners who adapt and improve. Now, as we near the end of today's session, I want to leave you with this thought. Reflection is the lamp that lights the path to continuous improvement. So, this reminds us that reflection isn't just a passive act, it's the guiding light that leads us to become better, more effective teachers. Just as a light, just as a lamp brightens the way forward in the dark, reflection eliminates areas where we can grow, adapt, and improve. So, through reflective teaching, we gain clarity on what works in the classroom and how we can support our students better. Every time you reflect, you shine a light on new opportunities for both your personal development and for your students' success. Let reflection be the tool that helps you continuously evolve as a teacher, lighting your way to a brighter, more impactful teaching journey. Thank you so much for joining today.